Let's preview tonight's Spurs-Lakers games. Bringing our guests, and we're going to be discussing how can if the Spurs can avoid disaster, and that being the worst record in franchise history. Then talk about some Locked On Spurs fan comments.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. TGIF, everybody. Hope y'all are having a great end of the work week. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA right now. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at tonight's game, Spurs-Lakers, a quick preview. Then bringing our guest, Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. We're going to be discussing whether or not the Spurs can avoid disaster, that being avoiding the worst record in franchise history. Then react to a couple of comments you have left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube fan page. But first up, tonight's game, Spurs-Lakers. Yeah, let's go into preview it. And as always, we start off with the opposition. But first, the Spurs will be on their 7th rodeo road trip game. And they're almost home, a couple more, and then they'll be back in San Antonio. For those of y'all who are on Jersey watch, the Spurs will be in their white edition jerseys today, the association jerseys, that is. So there you go. Now, as always, we start off with the opposition. So, the Lakers. So, what are we looking for? Well, the Lakers definitely can handle business at home versus Western Conference team. They're 14-5 at home. So, that's not helping the Spurs tonight versus LAL. Now, keep an eye on the third period scoreboard. If the Lakers are leading, they're undefeated at home. They're 17 at home. At home, at the arena, at Crypto. So keep an eye on that. If that third period is Lakers up, well, might be another L for the Spurs. But on the contrary, this is where it can help the Spurs, that being the third period scoreboard. The Lakers are actually 2-8 at home, well below 500 when they're trailing at home after the third period. So you want to make sure your Spurs are up at the end of 3. Now, on the San Antonio side, the Spurs have a losing streak against the Lakers. They've lost 2 straight versus the LAL. So hopefully the Spurs can snap that. Now, the Spurs are 2-7 on the second game of a back-to-back. Now, last night they played Sacramento, so well below 500. So hopefully they're not gassed, and they shouldn't be. They had a long break. They not like they traveled anywhere. They stayed in California, Sacramento, and so it's not like they had a big travel distance. But hopefully, again, the Spurs can and put another W on the win column of a second game of back-to-back. So there you have it. All right. Coming up next, we have Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. We're going to be discussing if the Spurs can avoid disaster, finishing with the worst record in franchise history, and then react to a couple of comments you guys left on the YouTube page. So that's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about Stitch Fix. Hey, you can get instant confidence boost when you get an outfit that makes you look really good. Well, guess what? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. Now, with Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with professional stylists that helps you find the new on-trend favorites, and that will just work for you. You just give your stylist your size, the style, your budget preference. Then you get the boxes when you want. No subscription required. That's even better. And then they send 5 just for you pieces plus outfit recommendations, pro styling advice. It's basically stuff that keeps it working, keeps you going. And hey, look, you can send the rest back if you don't like it. Look, with the stylist, always sends just the right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like they have like ESP or something. I don't know how they do it, but they just get the customers, they get me. They understand exactly what you're looking for when you want to look very, very snazzy. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. Look, if you don't like to shop, they can save you time and effort, and you get outfits that make you look really good. Look, if you don't like something, you don't love something, you just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchange are always for free. Style that makes you feel and good, makes you look good, everything you need. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. I also want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 to 1604 area. Look, open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friendly staff. Proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. They are a proud community member of San Antonio. They always love serving San Antonio residents. So head on out there right now. If you need a latte, check. They got it. Mini donuts, they got that. Cold brew, got that. Dairy alternative drinks, got that too. Signature drinks like the Muslinger, they got that too. And look, they have even caffeine drinks that'll get you going throughout your day, like the Red Bull Infused Lightning Bolt series. I recommend the strawberry. But if you want to take it easy, some non-caffeinated drinks, they got that too, like the OG OJ. I recommend you get that one, especially if you're an old school guy like me that grew up in San Antonio. You'll see when you find out when you go get it. Again, the OG OJ. Look, they're friendly with everybody. You go there, they greet you with a smile, quick, easy service, willing to work with you to help you create a drink if you want to. The menu, again, is vast. They're friendly on social media, on X, Threads, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, pick a platform. They're always there at Muslinger, SATX. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Look, it's a popular spot, so don't be left out. Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. Why? Because life is too short for bland coffee. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by the other Raul Flores. He's with the AP Sports Radio. Make sure to follow him on X at RawFlow64. You see it on your screen. By the way, Raul, yesterday we had Raul Dominguez. Today we have Raul Flores. And he told me to tell you, you are the OG Raul.
Only by a year.
Yeah.
We went to high school together, and he was a class behind me. So
yeah. By the way, great background. You got the Iceman there. You got all those old school photos of the Spurs. Yeah, look at that. The Bruce brothers there. Everything. You said last time you were on that Iceman is the OG Iceman post, right?
That is the original one. Yeah. Not the reprint that they did. I think they did it for the. What was it? It may have been Spurs 25th anniversary or something like that. They reprinted that poster.
You're like, nah, I'm good. You got the original print.
That's the original Nike poster. So
that is awesome, man. All right. So Raul is joining us today because we're gonna ask a big question that's probably on the Spurs fans' minds right now. Is that can the Spurs avoid disaster? Disaster meaning the worst record in franchise history. It was set last year with 22 wins. Right now, they only got 11. Well, as of this recording, they have 11, depending on the outcome of the Spurs-Kings game.
Yeah.
But there's only about 25, 27 games-ish left in the season, and that's it. Raul, can this team avoid disaster? Can they at least get 22 to tie?
Yeah, well, remember that in 1996-97 season, they went 20-62. So that's their worst record.
That's their worst record. Okay.
That's the worst record. So, right now sitting at 11 wins with just about 25 games to go, I don't see them winning 9 more games this year.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to, and they could surprise us. They could, string together a few wins and hopefully not break that futile record.
Right.
But you look at the remaining schedule. I was looking at the schedule and I just went game by game, and I've got them winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more games, which would put them at 18. The Spurs at Lakers in a couple of nights. That one I have as a toss up. So could be 9 wins, which would put them at 20-62 and tied for their worst record ever. But even at that, even at 18 wins, they still wouldn't be in the top 10 worst all-time finishes, which you never want to be in that company. But, you look at the 1973 Philadelphia 76ers, they went 9-73. And then the 2016 76ers went 10-72. Those are the two worst records in an 82 game season. There are others that had the Charlotte Hornets in the shortened season in 2012, I think, won seven games that year. But there was only 60 something games that year. So they may have won two more games that year had it been an 82 game season. But then you go down the list and you've got, the 93 Mavericks and the 98 Nuggets had 11 wins. Then there's the Clippers and the Nets had 12 win seasons. Mavs, Hawks, Rockets, Grizzlies all had 13 and 14 win seasons. So hopefully they don't fall in that top 10, that top 10 range. But, it is what it is.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
And, I know people are talking about, the team is tanking for the top pick or, to be near the top. But, there's never any guarantee. Last year wasn't guaranteed. The Spurs, in what year was it? 89-90. No, in the 86-87 season, they were 28-54. And the Clippers, Nets, and Knicks all had better records than them. And Spurs ended up with the top pick and got David Robinson, who had to fulfill his military obligation and didn't join the team until the 89 season, along with Sean Elliott. So he came into a situation, that I think people thought that Wemby coming in was going to, turn this franchise around immediately. But Wemby came into a totally different situation than David Robinson came into. When in the 89-90 season, when David and Sean were rookies, they also had Terry Cummings, Mike Mitchell, Maurice Cheeks, Rod Strickland, Willie Anderson, who was coming off as the leading scorer the previous season. And it was an upgrade from that 21-61 team. And, that roster on that team that went 21-61, I mean, they had Greg Cadillac Anderson, Frank Burkowski, and like I said, Willie Anderson was their leading scorer. I think he was in his first or second year. The situation that Robinson and Elliott came into and the situation that Duncan came into, they came in with bona fide players that were going to help the franchise turn around almost immediately.
Right.
What we're seeing with Wemby and all these young people, it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not going to happen. Right now, Vegas has the Spurs winning 16. That's the updated win total projection. So just 5 more wins on the season. Now, where I think Vegas, look, you never bet against the house. The Vegas predicted the Spurs winning a 22-23 win season for this year.
Right.
Looks like, and we scoffed at it, we laughed at it, and guess what? They were right. But what I see that could help the Spurs avoid that kind of dubious honor is if maybe some of the power teams they play late in the season start resting guys. If Dallas rests Luka, their playoff run, low management, he starts hitting them. That could be it. Also, too, there comes to a point, Raul, where, and I think they're there already, where you got to start thinking of, maybe you start thinking about the draft. I know this is not a very heavy duty, all powered draft, but you have to start thinking about that. Like, okay, sure, maybe there's not a bona fide power star like last year with Wemby,
right?
But you could start thinking about getting the best position, maybe to trade out of the top 5 to get a deal done. I think that has to keep going through their mind right now. But I'm going to go with Vegas. I think 16 wins. I think that's all they got. I think that's it. I mean, bar any miracle run they get, or Wemby just goes supernova on everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and so what does that mean? Looking forward, it's unlikely that the Spurs are going to get the top pick again. They'll be in the lottery, but the chances that ping pong balls or whatever method they use now fall their way for the number 1 pick again. you'll have conspiracy theorists thinking, there's no way.
Code envelope for the Knicks.
Exactly. Yeah. So, what's the biggest need right now? It's a playmaker. I really think you need a point guard, and possibly, Nikola Topic is available at that spot. I think he's a top 3 pick. If the Spurs can land in the top 3 spots. So that meets the biggest need. Now, granted, he's been injured, but before his injury, playing in the Adriatics League, he's averaging 19 points and about 7 assists per game. He's a good ball handler. His shooting comes into question. Great free throw shooter, but just not
questionable too.
Yeah, and his defense is questionable. So then you look at, all right, if available, do you go with, the better player or the need? And for me, I'd go with the better player. How Pop and Brian Wright think it through might be completely different. But if the Spurs could land Alexander Sarr and team him up with Wemby, that'd be great.
Yeah, be great. Yeah,
but those are a lot of ifs.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs. For me, the other options I mentioned right now is trading out of the top 5. Let's just say they land the top 5, or trade out, even top 10, trade out of that. Because this team is only going to get younger if they get one of the guys and they bring him in and they keep him on the roster.
Yeah, when
the lack of veteran presence that you mentioned is sort of lacking. You mentioned the Willie Andersons, Terry Cummings, Rod Strickland, Mo Cheeks. For that type of imprint that this team needs. Now, look, there's something to be said about having these kids come up together and growing together and becoming that team. Peter Holt told a French media outlet that their goal is to turn this Spurs back into like a dynasty or a powerhouse team. But if you want to get there, you're going to have to mix in veterans now. But that's the thing, Raul, because let's just say, can you imagine that they run it back? They run it back with the exact same team. Technically, there'll be veterans on the squad. Keldon, Devin. I don't know how many years it takes to not be considered a rookie or a young guy vote. Wemby will be in his second year. Trey Jones will be entering another year. So there's something to say about that. But can you imagine, Raul, if they run it back again with the same roster? For me, I wouldn't be surprised, though.
Yeah, you just don't see the Spurs, in the last 25 years making, outside of signing LaMarcus Aldridge as a free agent and bringing in DeMar DeRozan for a year, you just don't see the Spurs bringing in, veterans that will make a starting lineup impact. Yeah, they've always brought in free agents or made some trades where they get pieces for players that that are going to complement what you've got. But a player that's going to come in and make a total impact, that's never been Pop's style.
We need Bob Bass to come back and run the GM spot again. Exactly. Trader Bob needs to come back.
Trader Bob, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that 20-62 season. Robinson missed the first 18 games with a back injury. Comes back, plays 6 games, and then breaks his foot. Right. And Sean Elliott only played 39 games that season because he had tendonitis in his right knee and had to have surgery. So those may be the 2 best injuries, if you can say such a thing, to ever happen for a franchise. Because in the words of Sean Elliott, if David Robinson doesn't go out, there's no Tim Duncan and there's no dynasty.
Exactly.
Plain and simple.
Exactly.
And what the Spurs did, again, and I'll reiterate it, I've said it before, we got spoiled. 22 consecutive playoff appearances is unheard of. And I'm almost certain that it'll never happen again due to free agency, due to it's just a different mindset of players. So many of these players, they want their bank. and they'll play, whatever, 15 years,
Sure.
and they're gone, or they're jumping out. I mean, you look at someone like Kawhi, as a premier player as he is, he's already on his third team. You just don't see players, staying. Look at James Harden. James Harden's perennial all-star. How many teams has he been on already?
So many. Yeah.
And I think back, it's funny because I remember when OKC was up and coming with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. Had that core stayed together, they would have been Tim, Tony, and Manu all over again.
Yeah.
And could have had a really long run. But egos get in the way, contracts get in the way, and so what we had here in San Antonio was extremely special. You had Tim Duncan and David Robinson always restructuring their contracts to keep players here. Tony always took less than what he was really worth. Manu took way less than what he was he was worth, on the open market, just to keep that team together. And they totally bought into the team concept, and they created something that we may never see again in the NBA.
And you look at the Spurs right now, circling back to the whole, will they avoid disaster, as far as get the worst record. Even like just the back end of the road trip, they had the Kings last night, they got the Lakers tonight. Then when they got the Jazz, which might be winnable.
Jazz,
but then
T-Wolves.
The T-Wolves might be a problem. But then they come back home, Raul, and then they get, welcome back. You got OKC.
Yeah.
So
and Pacers.
And Pacers, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And welcome home, welcome back, McDermott. So here's the thing. It's gonna be tough. I don't see the Spurs avoiding disaster. I think they'll fall. I mean, it'll be a win if they hit 9 to at least tie the 20. I mean, that'd be a win, I guess. But yeah, I'm not feeling it. I think Vegas is spot on. I think you're right. It's gonna be a tough road ahead for the Spurs to avoid disaster. But there we have it. Just based on the strength of schedule, I think the Spurs do have one of the toughest strength of schedules to close the season.
Absolutely. I was looking at it. Yeah, they got to play the Kings twice. They got to play the Warriors 3 times, I think.
Jeez.
Still.
Yeah.
The Nuggets twice. The Suns back to back.
Then they have home games versus Brooklyn and Denver and Austin.
Yeah.
So it's going to be rough, Spurs fans. So I think Spurs fans already accepted that this might be their worst record in franchise history.
Yeah.
It just
and you can't get mad. People, fans get mad. Oh, they're this, they're that, and any adjective that you can think of that they throw at the Spurs. And no, man, it's cliche-ish as it sounds, it's a process. You look at what OKC is doing now. A couple of years ago, man, they were in the same position as the Spurs, but with draft picks and picking up some players. And, granted, Shea has just been gangbusters. I mean, what a gem they found in that when they got him from the Clippers. So it is what it is. And I think if fans just remain patient, and the team's going to turn it around, and as long as Wemby is your cornerstone, there's a good 10 to 12 year run,
there is.
In the future.
Yeah, I think they probably won't get out of the rebuild forest until maybe a couple more years. I think it'll be at, and then they'll be hitting. Okay, we're a playing game, a tournament, player participant kind of team. But all right, well, there you have it. There are thoughts if the Spurs can avoid a dubious record, the worst record in franchise history. Is not looking good. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not.
When we get back, it's not. When we get back, we're gonna dive into what you guys are thinking about. What are y'all talking about? Some comments that you left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. That's coming up next with Mr. Raul Flores. Hey, I want to talk to you about eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you the players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with that, let's just see what Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And he is recommending you get Scoot Henderson. Why? Because Scoot is now the Blazers starting point guard for the rest of the season. There will be inefficiency, but he needs to be rostered. So he is recommending you get the Blazers young guard Scoot Henderson. So do that right now. Take his advice. Hey, Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you with your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being the perfect fit. The same with your vehicle. So look, if you have yourself a car, if you got that dream car you have and you need to fix it up, go to eBay Motors. You got a dream ride, you got it. You don't want to see it get in disrepair, or maybe you want to do daily maintenance and stuff. Get a new part for something. Go to eBay Motors. What about that car that you loved and you want to get it back and you got it back and you bought it, but you still need to fix it? Go to eBay Motors. So yeah, if you want to keep your car running, you want to just fix it up, you want that cool upgrade, again, eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. You got brake kits, check. LED headlights, check. Roof racks, check. Bumpers, look, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not your cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, ebaymotors.com. Go there right now. Keep your baby alive. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with the OG Flores, according to Raul. The OG Raul, according to Raul Dominguez. He is Raul Flores. Right here on Locked On Spurs, making his second appearance. And again, you look from those posters you see behind you on Raul's side of the screen, the stories that he can tell you. One of my favorite stories he told us, he tell us one more time, Raul, that you covered a Bulls game at the Hemisphere and they gave y'all autographs of Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So we back then we didn't have the computerized stat sheets that were fed to us after the game or whatever. So we had to turn in a story like no more than 2 minutes after the game was finished. 200 words with just a recap of the game right away, and then you had to call in the box and read it off line by line. Each player and their complete stat line, and so you'd call that in, and some guy in New York was taking the box and punching it into the computer. And then we had to run to the locker rooms to get our quotes. We didn't have quote runners for us back then. So there I go to the locker room, and we're waiting to interview Michael Jordan. And so we go in, and they sat him in a chair in the middle of the dressing room, and reporters standing around him asking him questions. And as we're walking out, the PR guy goes, "Hey, we've got a couple of these media guides with."
That's awesome.
That Michael signed. If you want to take one, and on the back of our badges, we can't ask for autographs, we can't take pictures.
Right.
So we agree to all that as media. But when this guy handed us, the three reporters that were walking out, he hands us this Chicago Bulls media guide with Michael Jordan's autograph on it. I was like, well, heck yeah, I'll take it.
I'll take that.
Yeah. So I've got it stored away. Next time you have me on, I'll bring it out.
Absolutely.
I'll have it ready.
Love to check that out. Yeah. Well, Raul, let's go ahead and dive into some of the Spurs fans' comments of what's on their minds that they left at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. The first one up is from Gino Rivera. He's having a reaction to the recent interview that Zach Collins did with the Spokesman Review. Just to catch you up, Raul, in that interview, he was, praising Wemby, for his work ethic, being so young, pretty much everything we heard. Right. Interesting, though, within that interview, though, he was asked if he would like, about moving from the starting lineup when he was paired with Wemby. Now he's not paired with Wemby for much of time. He's now on the bench. In that interview, he said that he would like to return to that pairing as the season winds up. Needless to say, Spurs fans had a reaction to that. This one comes from Gino Rivera. He says, honestly, I thought Zach would have been a good fit with Wemby, but he can't make shots to keep the spacing. What do you think about that? Is it just literally coming down to just two different players? You got a Wemby who can do almost everything, and Zach, who is good, but not at the level of Wemby, and they were just running into each other so many times. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I thought when the Spurs signed Zach, I thought it was a great pickup. I was excited about it, and he was coming off almost 2 years of not playing because of injuries, and so it took him all of last season to just kind of get acclimated. So I expected a whole lot more out of him this year. But that chemistry between the two just hasn't been where it needs to be. What was the person's name? Gino?
Gino Rivera.
Yeah, Gino. Yeah, he's absolutely right. They're not clicking the way they should, and Zach Collins is very sporadic in his shooting. He'll get on a hot streak and hit 3-pointers in a row, and then he'll clank 6. And so, that lack of consistency forces defenses to not play him as tight and double up on Wemby or anybody else, and challenge Zach to take that shot. I think where Zach really needs to be is inside the paint, banging bodies. He needs to be that bruiser, that enforcer, blocking out. So many times I see him and he just misses a block out, a simple block out, and it's fundamental basketball. I'm 5'5".
Well, really, I thought you can take on Wemby 1-on-1.
Yeah. and I can't block. I want to block somebody out, but I can't. But at 6'11", whatever Zach is, he should be blocking out bodies, and he's got them. He's got the strength to do it. He just misses the spots.
Yeah, exactly. And I looked at some of the numbers. Because I wrote something up for Ken's 5 about this, and the on-off, the two-man combo with Wemby and Zach. So with Wemby and Zach on the court together this year, the net rating was a minus 10.4, rounded up 10.5. Okay. But when Wemby was on the court without Zach and Zach's on the bench, the net rating spikes up, to -4. So just that stat alone tells you that, it was perhaps a better way to move Zach to the bench and let Wemby do his thing. But look, Zach Collins, he's having career highs in assists this year, and I believe in free field goals attempted. So he's having a serviceable year. He's really still good. Yeah, but it's just, I think they were just running into each other too much, and they were just a contrast of styles. So we appreciate that comment from Gino Rivera. We appreciate it. Before we move on to the next comment, any final thoughts on the Zach Collins Wemby thing?
No, I think I think it's I don't think it's an experiment that should be completely just let go. I think there's still the possibility that the two can work together at the same time on the court. They just need to we're what 50 games into the season.
Games in, yeah.
Give it a season, and then give them an off season to work together.
Absolutely,
and see where that goes. Because I think, I think he's more than just a serviceable player.
Yeah, exactly. And the Spurs invested in him to give him a new contract. So we'll see what they do with that. All right, our next question is from Roberto Maldonado, 2723. He says, and this is regarding the Trae Young Spurs rumors, Raul. He says, I'm against the Trae Young trade because it doesn't feel like a trade you make when you're one of the bottom 4 teams. The trade seems more logical when you're a contender. trading all of our assets to improve to a 7th or 8th seed playoff team seems premature. Thank you, Roberto, for that comment. Yeah, that's been on the lips of Spurs fans and it spiked during the All-Star break because of Trae Young's comments about what Wemby needs to succeed. He was basically describing himself.
Right.
And then, of course, the reports and whatnot. Where do you land on this? Do you think this is more smoke than fire, or buy or sell?
Yeah,
What do you think about this?
I think it's more smoke just based on his comments. People jump on it right away. I don't see Trae ever coming here, and if he did, it's going to be an off-season move. So it's not going to be anything to help them this year. Move up to 2 spots, 3 spots, whatever it would do for the Spurs. Again, Spurs' biggest need right now is a playmaker. Is Trae that person? He's definitely an all-star, definitely a great player. But is he the right fit for the Spurs? I just don't see it. I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, Raul Dominguez yesterday, his thing, he's okay with it. If the Spurs make a deal, they make a deal, they get it. Oh no, not Trae Young, not that. Not in Spurs uniform. But our concerns were the lack of defense on a team that's just sometimes can show bad defense. Now, look, Wemby does cover up a lot, so let's just say Trae gets dusted by his opponent. Okay, fine, go meet Wemby. So there's that. The other thing, too, is mortgaging the future. The Spurs are sitting on a lot of picks, a lot of money, a lot of flippable players. Atlanta's going to want to stick it to San Antonio, and when they give him the bill for Trae, the Spurs might be, you want what?
Basically what the Spurs did to Atlanta for DeJounte.
Yeah, exactly. Just reverse. So those are the only cautious things. But look, Trae Young he's a good facilitator. I think his assisting it doesn't get really praised enough. We know he can score. We know he's a deep threat. We know he can penetrate. We know he loves playing against the Spurs because he has career games against San Antonio. So, and everybody's talking about the recent rumblings and his, talking poetic about the Spurs. Years ago in my former home, before I jumped on to Ken's 5, I wrote an article about how Trae Young, and now mind you, this is about 3-4 years ago, was saying how great the Spurs organization is, how wonderful it is. So this is not the first time we've heard him say great things about San Antonio. So I understand why Spurs fans are getting excited. But yeah, ultimately, will the Spurs pay the price tag?
Yeah.
Man, what do you think, Raul?
What he would command, dollars wise, I just don't see the Spurs doing that. That's not their game. That's not their style.
Let alone Atlanta, what they would want for him.
What Atlanta would want, and then what it would cost to keep him here. What it's going to cost to keep Wemby here. Over the long haul, and then which pieces do you let go? Which ones do you keep? It's going to cost you probably Devin, Sohan, maybe
Keldon, probably,
Keldon, and then what are you left with?
Exactly. You're kind of going back to scratch. Like, okay, now we got to rebuild because we rebuild within the rebuild by bringing in Trae Young. But we'll see. We'll see. The Spurs definitely can be a power player this offseason. They were kind of quiet, in the trade deadline. But look, they got a bunch of picks. They're likely going to land a top 5 pick, maybe top 8 at worst. So they can do something. And we'll see what they can do. But they're definitely Brian Wright and the rest of the team. Well, I'll tell you this much, though, Ro. If the Spurs do run it back and don't do anything major, Spurs fans are gonna just all out pitchforks and flames and torches. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be horrible. He is Raul Flores with the AP Sports Radio. Raul, what is going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, right now it's just the daily grind. I've kind of enjoyed the rodeo road trip.
Me too.
Don't have to go hang out at the Frost Bank Center
all night long.
For a little while. But in a little over a week, we're back there, and we'll get to smell the remnants of the rodeo. for
Yeah,
about a month.
I went to the rodeo, and let me tell you, I parked at the back parking spots.
Mhm.
So I'm coming towards our media
Lot,
section
yeah,
where we lot
yeah.
park. So I go into the thing, and what do I see? Swine barn. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
oh, good Lord. So right
yeah.
when I got into the heart of the rodeo, oh, it did
Oh
not
yeah,
smell pleasant
yeah.
at all.
The aroma will be
Yeah,
so pleasant. I say,
exactly.
said tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Said tongue in cheek. Yeah.
But yeah, just looking forward to the remainder of the season
Mhm.
and see what the Spurs can do. I think Pop's maybe start experimenting with some
Mhm.
lineup changes
Mhm.
to see. I think you're starting to see good things out of Blake Wesley,
Oh, for sure.
and so it'll be interesting
It will
to
be. Yeah.
see to see
Yeah,
what
I'm
happens.
interested in seeing the auditions because basically we're going to see who's going to be sticking around and who might not be fitting with Wemby moving forward. So we might be looking at the final games for a few Spurs in silver and black uniform. Once again, he is
Yeah.
Raul Flores, the AP Sports Radio. Make sure to follow him on X at Raflo64. Let him know he is the original Raul, not
Not Raul Dominguez. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
number 2.
He's the better looking one though.
All right. Thank you again, Raul, for stopping by here on Locked On Spurs. And we thank you for hopping on Locked On Spurs as well. Listeners and watchers, find us on on YouTube, Locked On Spurs page, Ken's 5 Plus app, iTunes, Spotify. The list goes on and on. We'll be back next week. All things silver and black. We'll see who's going to be surprising us to make their appearance here on Locked On Spurs and Locked On Sports 24/7 YouTube streaming channel. Again, Locked On Sports today, right now on YouTube, 24/7. Go check it out. The national, regional, local hosts were all there. Again, Locked On Sports today on YouTube. So for Raul Flores, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.